Hello, I'm Hector Pizarro, and welcome to Comcast saluting Hispanic Heritage Month, honoring its Latino leaders. And with us today, we have the pleasure to have the Vice Mayor of the city of Redwood City, Alicia Aguirre.
Thank you for having me, Hector.
A pleasure to have you here with us. And tell us a little bit about what does your job entails and how do you, being a Latina, get to be in this position?
Well, as Vice Mayor of the city of Redwood City, I represent the city not only in numerous functions, but also in policy making and working with a council of 7. We have a mayor and a vice mayor, so we don't have what's called a strong mayor relationship that other cities do. And it means city council meetings, it means events, it means representing the community, not only the community at large, but also the Latino community. I happen to be the only Latina in the city council in the city of Redwood City.
Now, you have been involved in most of your career in education, particularly with the youth, Latino youth, I would imagine. And also, I noticed that you've been elected to the Hall of Fame of the Chamber of Commerce of Redwood City.
That's correct. Thank you for acknowledging that. I'm a professor at Cañada College, and I teach mostly Latinos. I teach advanced ESL classes, and I teach Spanish for Spanish speakers and Latino literature. So all of my students are Latinos. And I benefit largely from having them also live in my community and being able to work with them in service education, getting them involved in educational type of service jobs within the community, because they are, and we continue to be, the strongest role models. And it's there's a huge need in the Latino community for that.
What would you give as an advice to the parents of these young Latinos who eventually will become the leaders in the state, or at least are working towards that goal?
It's interesting you should mention that, because with the parents, we have the greatest resource. When parents move to this country, they want to assimilate. And perhaps assimilating isn't always the best way to go about, especially with their children, but to continue to have pride and keep their culture, their language, their music, their food, their ethics, their manners, their good manners. Because when we assimilate too much, we get a little bit lost within the transition. So continue to have those things. That happened to me when I was young. I know my parents immigrated to this country, and a lot of things I couldn't do that my friends could do. But at the end of the day, it really made me as a stronger person, and I respect that. And the advice I give to parents is, what is important to you, keep it. Do not lose it just because you immigrated. Learn the customs and the culture of this country and make it part of who you are, but don't lose yourself in the process.
And also, in order to achieve whatever goals they set to themselves, information, not be afraid of getting the information necessary to get to those points in terms of education.
Correct. And that happens through parent institutes within our schools, you know, PTAs, programs. There's programs, Comité de Padres Unidos, at many of the schools, many of the high schools, that I think a lot of parents are beginning to see the importance of that, so that their children won't stray off on the side.
What have you found then to be some of the biggest impediments for Latinos to approach educational institutions to improve themselves, better themselves?
As children, correct? Not as the parents.
Correct.
So the biggest impediments, of course, are economical reasons. The fact that many young children in high schools and middle schools have had to start to work to help with the family. The families are larger. They live with a number of family members within the same area. They don't always have the access to the best schools. And so they get discouraged and they drop out and they begin to look for work or get into areas that are not very beneficial to themselves and their family. So it's the lack of, I think you mentioned it, knowing where the resources are, where to find them, where to get our families to move there, where the children can go after school in some programs, and not just look at one local school because in your neighborhood it's full or the programs are full, but what are other resources around?
There are always alternatives out there. No?
Correct.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Alicia, and we wish you most success in what you're doing, and keep up the good work, you know, bridging that gap between our youth and the education. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Hector.
And thank you for being with us. This has been Comcast saluting the Hispanic Heritage Month.